So I want to show you guys here. I'm sure a number of you have seen this, but it's an incredibly humiliating clip. This is Kamala Harris being interviewed by Charlamagne, who pressed her in ways that the mainstream media entirely refuses to. This is probably the first hard question that Kamala Harris has gotten as vice president. It's not even a hard question. It's an obvious question. But her response, you guys, she finger wags. She gets up on her pedestal. She says, you sound like a Republican, or you're talking like a Republican, which is their reflexive response to any criticism from the left. You sound like Trump, right? It's nonsense. And then she goes on to list a bunch of things, many of which they have gutted from their own bill, which just crashed and burned, as though it was some sort of accomplishment that she and Joe had achieved. This was an utter embarrassment. And if you haven't seen it, I apologize, but I do have to show it to you.
Madam Vice President.
Come on, Charlamagne.
Come
on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president. It's Joe Biden.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris. And the reality is, because we are in office, we do the things like the child tax credit, which is going to reduce Black child poverty by 50%, on track to do that. We do things that are about saying that our Department of Justice is going to do these investigations and require that we end chokeholds and have body cameras. It is the work of saying we're going to get lead out of pipes and paint because our babies are suffering because of that. It is the work of saying people who ride public transit deserve the same kind of dignity that anybody else does. So let's...
Where do I even start? Where do I even start? Any criticism from the left, you're immediately a Republican. And then I'm going to wag my finger at you and say, Joe Biden is president. And this is where, like, guys, just in general, if you're the vice president of the United States and you feel the need to say, I'm the vice president and my name is Kamala Harris, you're toast. You're absolutely toast. That's so humiliating. And then she goes on to talk about the child tax credit, which they're ending. She goes on to talk about environmental stuff while they're allowing, what's the word I'm looking for? Blanking on the word. They're allowing more drilling permits, fracking permits, etc. Dozens of them. You want to talk about environmental issues? Give me a fucking break. You gutted your own bill of all the consequential environmental provisions in favor of big oil and natural gas. And then even that bill went and crashed and fucking burned in a train wreck. And she wants to stand there and brag about all the things that they've done. I mean, it's where do you even start? And the attitude, too. Is it ever effective to look at a voter and it's so pathetic and pitiful and humiliating. It's secondhand embarrassment. It's the Democrats reaping what they sow for their decision to shove Kamala down our throats after she was such a miserable failure in the primaries, after voters told everybody what they thought of Kamala Harris. The Democrats were like, yeah, no, let's shove her down their throat. Maybe she'll win in 2024. Guys, if she's on the ticket, it's going to be a historic loss. Historic. I don't know that she'll be quite Mondale, but she will be a historic loss. And it's just, you know, that's her response to a, like, it's really not even a challenging question. It's really not even a challenging question. And her refusal to answer the follow-up. Did you guys hear what Charlamagne said after her initial response? He said something about, like, do you oppose Joe Manchin? Do you condemn Joe Manchin for tanking this bill or whatever? And Kamala just ignores it. Ignores it. Because Manchin is playing a very, very important role for the Democratic Party, which is the rotating villain, so that they can have it both ways. They can vocally say they support things that they obviously do not support or have any willingness to fight for, and then they can hide behind, well, Joe Manchin won't do it. Yeah. And another thing, back in 2018, when Manchin's last election, he's up again in 24. Kamala Harris sent out emails. She was then a senator, right? sent out emails basically begging people to donate to his campaign. Okay. So you see they've gone full mask off with all of this shit. And it's just utterly humiliating. It makes me physically cringe to watch that interview. And that was, again, not a difficult question. And I just, again, want to put this in the context of how the press conducts themselves. Shame on the mainstream press who consider themselves journalists, who can't be bothered to ask such an obvious question as, hey, who the fuck's in charge? You guys keep folding and groveling to parliamentarians and Joe Manchins and Kirsten Cinemas. Who's in charge? Who's running the country? We're going to get into student debt here momentarily. Another one where it's like, who's in charge? You have the authority to do something and you blame Congress. It's pathetic. It's impotent. It's any, fill in the blank. But it's going to result in them getting mollywopped next year and in 2024, especially if they run Kamala on the top of the ticket. So, hey, shout out to Charlamagne for actually, asking a mildly pressing question. And what a humiliating response from Kamala there, which is, again, to be expected. You guys, every time she has this problem where her approval tanks when she hides, and then it tanks even faster when she actually comes out in the public and says something. And you see why there. I mean, you guys, I thought that I would never see a politician less talented than Hillary Clinton. And I don't mean like take the ideology out of it. I literally just mean, how effective are you at winning over voters and gaining support and being viewed popularly, or favorably rather? I thought, boy, I'm never going to see someone worse at that than Hillary Clinton. Kamala's given her a genuine run for her money. Genuine run for her money. Who do you guys think is worse? I mean, seriously, I'd be honestly curious to hear from the audience on this. You guys think Kamala's a worse politician or Hillary? They're sure right there neck and neck as far as I can tell, right? And the Democrats, it's almost like they're masochistic. It's almost like they get pleasure out of being crushed electorally because they continue to make such brazenly unhelpful decisions if their goal is actually to win and to maintain power. So what an embarrassing interview for Kamala. As I said, I wanted to talk